What's up, Laker fans? Welcome to the Laker Film Room podcast. I'm Pete, joined by Darius, and about as fun of a weekend of 0-2 preseason basketball as one could imagine, at least on my end. The really fun weekend Lakers played Minnesota without LeBron and AD, and then Phoenix last night with the two stars, only missing the guys that we know are going to be out for a little bit in Vando and Wood. And both games were fun in their own way. Lakers were not able to win either of them. But in the first game, the young guys were really impressive. Max, I thought, was our best player. Connect put up an efficient 16, especially in the first three quarters. JHS provided some quality minutes. And then I thought the opposite was kind of true in the second game. The young guys all struggled. I thought Bronny struggled in both games, although got some deflection, showed some of the, disruptiveness in that respect. But offensively, you can see they're very much looking for a role for him. And happy birthday to him, by the way, turned 20 this weekend. And then the second game, when LeBron and AD played, we saw a little bit more of, it was a mix of kind of two worlds clashing together, I thought, where Redick has these ideas of ball movement and handoff. And I have a whole tangent to go on about Redick, where he's been cracking me up how tortured he is by just little things, which is exactly how I want my coach to be. He looks older than he did when he took the job, and maybe I'm seeing what I want to see, but I don't know. He's tormented in a way that I appreciate, and was talking about improving the Lakers screening from the first preseason game to the next, and they did. Going to do a film session on that on YouTube at noon. And so I'll leave it to you open-ended, D. There was some good basketball, some bad basketball, some obviously preseason basketball, but what were your first impressions of this team?
I would say they were very similar to the comments that the head coaches made after both of the games. I was actually a bit frustrated that they didn't win the Suns game, honestly. Go out there and get your coach a win and show us a little bit more attention to detail and not so eager to get your own. I've got a whole Max Christie thing. I think that he's been playing well. I also think you can see a clear distinction in where he is on the floor and how effective he is, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I thought they competed really hard in the first game against the Timberwolves. I think that they got blasted in terms of size, and JJ said that they got destroyed in the possession game. They did. They gave up too many offensive rebounds. I think that the getting used to it offensive style is contributing to them being a higher turnover team. The Warriors have long been a high turnover team, and they're not a team that's lacking for basketball IQ. But when you play a style where there's more player movement and you're encouraging guys to move the ball, then they are going to get eager to pass into tighter windows or make a read, and the timing's not aligned and the ball goes to the other team. So I was encouraged by their competitiveness in the first game. And then in the second game, I was encouraged by how the Lakers stars look like stars. And LeBron and AD, man, they are very good basketball players. And I think the Suns are a good matchup for LeBron and AD's offense. And I think you saw that. Neither of those teams really has a good solution for either of those dudes defensively. The Lakers looked like a team, too, that had already played a preseason game. LeBron and AD obviously didn't play in game one, but I thought D'Lo and Austin and Rui looked a little bit sharper in the second game than they did in the first game. But overall, a lot of things to like about the team. I'm actually encouraged by what they're doing defensively. And I think the moments where they're really engaged defensively, they look sharp to me. And I really like how aggressive they're being on the back line in terms of their rotations. Just night and day in a lot of ways to their attentiveness in how you want them to be and the types of rotations that their guards are making, I think, in order to really crash the paint defensively and tag aggressively and stick their nose in there, and guys getting on the ground. Austin's gotten a couple of steals. Jackson dove for a loose ball. Max has gotten on the ground a few different times. And last season, I mean, if a dude was on the ground, it was because he tripped. It wasn't because he actually went down there to try to make a play.
On purpose, right?
Yeah, so I've liked what they've done defensively. And offensively, man, there's just a lot of little nuance, a lot of little detail that I really like the profile that they're showing. So I don't want to sound like a homer. There's a lot to improve on still. And there's still things where I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's actually a bad 3. Or can we actually work for something better? There's stuff there where I'm like, okay, is this really what we want? It seems like the coaches are happy with some of these shots, and I get it, but I see you nodding your head to be a little bit like, that's a part I'm going to have to get used to a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this on the film session I'm about to do, but Max took a 3 where we're going to have a philosophical discussion on the film session of, is this a good shot? Because I don't think it's a good shot. I think JJ Redick might think it's a good shot, but they want to get up 3s. This has been a topic that we've discussed. My thought is, let's get up the right 3s to get there. But everything makes sense to me so far, from the strategic, like these guys playing together. For example, the Minnesota game, we were super undersized, and the game plan was to switch, and we didn't do it well. And one of the things that you have to do on a switch to do it well is you want to jump out and put pressure on the ball, because one of the weakest points is the moment when you're switching. That's when you're at your most vulnerable defensively. And so if there's no pressure on the ball to just like ball fake high and pass low, like even if you just make it by yourself an extra split second, your defense can recover into a better shape on the switch. And if you don't jump out, yeah, it becomes pretty easy to score. And that only happened a couple of times in the first game. And I caught that, and Redick was talking about that, like our switches were bad. And that in the second game, there was, when we did that, it was a much more, I'm engaging you on the switch. Like I am guarding you to jump out to on the switch, and we're going to be more organized on the back line. And then on the offensive end, we have like 3 different main ways of initiating the offense. We've run a lot of horn sets with like a cross screen. We've initiated on the wing early offense. And again, we'll go over this. That'll probably be tomorrow's film session. But and anyhow, there's all of it is like, yes, this is the basic shell of where we should be in preseason game number 2. Redick's talked about this in the post game of like, we're installing simple stuff that we're looking to get good at now. So I think that like being too critical of like play design and stuff like that at this point is kind of missing the forest from the trees. But it's like, now there are some we'll get into the details of what's good and bad of what they're doing so far, but I think it's important to understand the overall, like they're installing kind of the foundation of what they want to do.
I'm actually the opposite. I'm very much encouraged by the baseline stuff I'm seeing offensively. I love them going to horns more. I love the actions they're running out of horns. I love the emphasis on like skip, DHO stuff. That is good.
What do you like about the horn stuff?
So first of all, the guy who's getting the ball in horns is typically like a pass shot threat. So this was very evident in the Suns game because AD was getting the ball a fair amount as the guy getting the ball in the horn set, right? And so they ran a great little action where LeBron got a layup, and it was LeBron bringing the ball up, and he was getting pressured. And it was like, oh, damn, LeBron got turned twice in the backcourt. And this is the sort of thing that they talked about, that JJ talked about. I don't necessarily want LeBron facing full court pressure a bunch, but there he is facing full court pressure, and he's getting turned by a big athletic wing. And Ryan Dunn, I think his name is.
Big, really like him.
Yeah, big, impressive athlete defensively, for sure. LeBron, little lefty bowl bounce pass, like bowling ball bounce pass to AD, horns entry, and Gabe is the other dude that's at the horns. And so it's like an inverted horns. Normally it would be your power forward and your center and the guard bringing the ball up, but it's inverted this time, right? And so it's like your point guard in Gabe, who's the other dude at the elbow and horns, and then it's LeBron bringing the ball up. And this is the versatility within the Lakers offense. Entry to AD, and Gabe just crushes LeBron's defender on a great step-up screen and just got him the hell out of there. And you could tell the guy guarding Gabe is just like, oh, damn, do I got to step up on LeBron now? And he did, but it didn't matter. LeBron, easy pass from AD, a lefty layup finish. Boom, boom, boom. Beautiful. And so I love the fact that AD gets the ball there, and the secondary action out of that is going to be then it's to flow into a DHO right with Gabe. And so that is going to be, when that cut isn't there is second and third actions that are going to be built into all of this stuff. And that's one of the things I like about the horn sets. It's not, of course, it's to get LeBron a layup. But if that doesn't happen, that's going to flow into a DHO with Gabe, and then AD potentially like on the lob. Oh, nope, lob's not there. AD's going to bury, LeBron's going to clear. They can then go, Gabe can then pass to LeBron, who goes to the other corner, and then Gabe can go through, and then they can run empty side screen and roll with LeBron and AD. There are so many things that you can build and build and build out of a horns set. And it also takes into account, Pete, that's just like LeBron and AD potentially being the recipient of the ball there. So this time it was AD, but it's going to be LeBron in sets too. They are going to be so good at being able to pick out guys and read the defense from there as passers, but give LeBron and AD the ball 15 feet away from the basket with a defense that is now worried about movement on other parts of the court. And those guys are going to be able to attack and get downhill and score for themselves. And it's going to be a principal set, I'm hoping, for the Lakers. And I think LeBron and AD are going to eat in those horn sections, Pete. So let's go to break here. And when we come back, I want to hear some of the stuff that you're excited about, especially in the half court offense.
So I just want to build off of your point. You brought up Gabe. He was a player you brought up before either preseason game was played, to sort of, hey, we want to see him where his fit is. And I thought it was a great weekend for him from that. And he understands the style of basketball better than pretty much anybody else amongst the role players. And he's the best screen setter. He actually makes contact on his screens. Like you said, he actually is going to get underneath the guy and lift him up and get to his spot, and understands the value of that. He's going to sprint to that next action. So much of this style of play is about building incremental advantage throughout the play. And when it's more dribble penetration, it's more like, this guy who has the ball is awesome, and few humans on the planet can guard him. And he just made a quick move, and now he's by, and now advantage is created. But it's this one big bang event where the guy beats somebody off the dribble. Whereas this style is like, oh, this jab step created he's leaning a little bit now, and then I'm going to go V-cut out to the perimeter, ball fake one way, pass the other direction, screen away, and you're building incremental advantage throughout the play, and having players that can set screens and go to the right spot quickly, and ideally be able to finish at the end of that. And Gabe's okay at that, but at his best, he's good enough and really knows kind of the sequence. And so this is very sequence basketball that I think those screen setters are very central figures within how to play this way.
Yeah, Gabe looking like a running back picking up the blitz, right? Like, okay,
nice.
You're a moving target for me, and I'm going to pick you off literally and create space. Gabe also had a nice little inverted pick and roll action with LeBron. LeBron hit him in the pocket. Gabe gets a layup and one. Those are little things that are also going to continue to be a part of what the Lakers do offensively. They're not going to get away from being a pick and roll team at all. I think that if we're looking at things that I'd like to see more of, I actually want to see more traditional post-ups with LeBron and AD. We really haven't seen much of that at all, but it's just like the horn stuff and some of the pick and roll stuff. I've liked that, especially, and some of the split cut stuff that they've run out of ATOs. Like, I've been encouraged by those as well. And so a lot to like.
We did run a few post-ups in the first half against Phoenix, and those were by far our most nobody knows what the hell they're doing possessions, which are going to be, that's part of where we are. But you only have a finite amount of time to work on certain things for sure. But I do want to see improvement in that respect. But yeah, like where it was clear what they had worked on and what they hadn't.
Yeah. Some of the things, the other actions that I'm encouraged on are playing through the top of the floor and the screener actions that the Lakers are running. And so a screen and away screen is being set and then another away, like it's all weak side action. And so Dalton is coming off of these a fair amount, and it's leading to me to good mid-range shots, which actually are not the types of shots that JJ always wants the team shooting, but these are good looks to me. And I've been encouraged by a lot of the, we're going to set a screen and then go set another screen for the guy who just set the screen. That is putting the defense in situations where you've always said this, like the Hubie Brown quote, right? Like you set a screen in order to make the defense react, and putting the defense into situations where they have to make choices. And am I reading this right? And JJ making such a point of emphasis on, we've really talked about screening and what our screen angles are.
I love that he noticed that our screen setting sucks. Like he noticed that by game 1. I was like, this has been a problem for a minute.
Yeah, and it's also something where it's still not sharp on every single play. Like you could tell Rui, for example, I think is like leaving too early when he's the recipient of an off-ball screen, and it's not allowing for the screen angle to get set. And so defenders are just slipping by. And so then Rui is then going in to go set another ball screen after receiving, and I'm putting that in quotes, a screen. But those are the things that with reps, they're going to get better, and Rui getting deeper actually too, so that to set up the screening angle better and not just relying on the guard to come and hit a guy, because that's how you're also going to pick up illegal screen actions. It's on both parties, right? So when Jackson sets an illegal screen, it's like, there goes Jackson Hayes again, setting an illegal screen. And sometimes it is Jackson's fault, but sometimes it's the guard's fault. Sometimes it's the wing's fault for leaving too early or taking too wide of an angle and setting Jackson up to have to go outside of his screening lane in order to set the pick.
All of that's timing and repetition. So those are acceptable mistakes at this point. I think we'll be able to know the nights where the Lakers are not mentally locked in by their turnover numbers a lot of times, because this style of offense has layers of complexity to it that, as we talked about at the opening, kind of increase the turnovers precisely because it's built on timing and knowing, hey, this is how you react to this particular situation. And I know that's why I always talk about on the pod that, hey, you have your crew that goes to the park. Yeah. We always play together and we can beat teams that we probably shouldn't beat because we just play together all the time. But that can only comes with time and repetition. So I'm very encouraged with what we've seen so far.
So I've been encouraged too, but we've been hung a lot of offense.
Yeah.
What have you liked and potentially disliked about the team's defensive approach so far? A lot of different defensive looks. They played some zone in the third quarter. They've done some traditional drop stuff. They've played at the level. JJ has talked after a couple of games. It's like, we're trying to do the base level thing in a variety of areas to try to install our foundation. Right. And so a lot of the concepts that we talked about offensively, like, oh, we're doing this, but at sort of a rudimentary level and really trying to get the basics down. They're doing that for defense as well. So where are you at with some of the foundational stuff you've seen from them defensively?
I want to preface this with, I've watched mostly through an offensive lens so far, fully knowing that, you know, the defense is what we need to, but I think that it's where Redick has certainly devoted a lot of his attention, where I think defensively we've seen looks in principles, but again, they're very baseline. I've been encouraged by the level of flexibility, like the different, hey, we played a little bit of zone. We had Rui up top at one point, which it was one thing I was talking about. Hey, guarding the KCPs, that's something he's a little more equipped to do. Is there's certain things on the perimeter that he does better than others. And so just a level of flexibility. We saw Jackson and AD on the floor. There was that, you tweeted about this, the contest and rim run where D'Lo got the rebound, long outlet to AD. I wanted to cry. And Jackson getting on the floor. Let's actually talk about that real quick. There's a certain power game that the Lakers were able to get to in that stretch in the second quarter against Phoenix, where that's where Phoenix is weak. They're really small. And ideally, the Lakers can kind of go at them in that way. And I thought that Redick showed a way of doing that without spacing. There were a couple things he's done lineup wise where I was like, yes, I love that that's at least on your radar. And that little stretch right there where they really punished, we had LeBron on the court too. In that particular play, it was like Jackson's on the floor. Austin's really competing for perimeter rebounds. That was one thing I thought our perimeter rebounding was just way better. And competing for perimeter rebounds. Jackson dives on the floor, turns into a LeBron dunk. There's so much size and athleticism on the floor that just seeing a level of, I've been worried that Redick's going to trend too far toward the, hey, let's everybody shoot as many threes as possible. And I still think he wants to do that, but doing that, having some degree of flexibility, I thought was encouraging. How about you?
100% agree with all of those points. I liked seeing the AD and Jackson group for a few minutes, and then LeBron did come in, and I'm just like, oh boy, there's a supersized group here. I like the fact that those groups can be athletic. I like the fact that they can be a transition team. I like the fact that AD can be on the perimeter a little bit more and run more freely and not have to do every big man thing on the court because Jackson is there with him.
And I just want to emphasize, this is just a club in your bag. It's not something you have to do all the time, but you want to be able to go to it.
Well, also, too, for a coach who's talked about winning on the margins, sometimes you can create margins against a very specific team based off of their very specific weakness. And so there's a general approach to winning the margins, which is talking about stuff like corner crashing and being better on the offensive glass. But there are ways to create margins against very specific opponents based off of the things that they do or don't do well. And punishing a Suns team that isn't necessarily going to be the biggest interior team, they aren't going to, and against that specific group, they didn't have all of their offensive threats on the court. And so it's like, okay, AD, you get to guard Royce O'Neal. That's totally a reasonable matchup for AD as a perimeter-based four, that guy is not going to be you have to run around and chase this dude on the perimeter and feel like I'm a step behind. That dude's a spot-up player. So the play that you highlighted where AD got the run out, they tried to do a little DHO exchange and Royce O'Neal steps into a three and AD sort of like a little bit behind, but gets a good contest and then just runs out. And now suddenly it's like, okay, well, AD is burying this dude underneath the basket because he just ran out and got a layup. And so leveraging the athleticism the team does have and the size that they do have, and this is even without Vando and Wood, it's like, okay, yeah, let's get it done. Let's go to break here, though, Pete, for our second time. And when we come back, I want to hit another idea defensively before we get into a couple of round-robin topics. So this team has also tried to be, through a couple of games, more pressure-oriented and disruptive on the perimeter as well. They're picking up full court, and I think they're asking a lot of their guards and wings to be aggressive at the point of attack and then aggressive in getting to the paint in order to tag. Because when you're playing and you want to be a physical team defensively, which is what Redick has said, sometimes the play you're going to give up, Pete, is like the blow-by or the penetration is going to be there. And when that's the case, your back line has to be active and they need to be engaged. And I've liked, for the most part, the guards sticking their nose in there and trying to like make plays on the back line. I've seen Austin go vertical a couple of times and try to protect the basket. I've seen Connect do that as well. I've seen JHS basically look like a free safety and like basically just run full speed and try to like tip away a lob or challenge a ball at the basket. So it's clear this is a point of emphasis to me. It's not always perfect, but I see the energy and I see the vision. And I'm encouraged by the team being this aggressive defensively, knowing that it's going to take time to create that synergy. But on those possessions where they are locked in, you could see the Suns struggled a couple of times to even get a shot off, a clean look off within a 24-second shot clock.
Yeah, it's great to see. I'm a big fan of ball pressure, and I think that it really can impact how an offense runs. It's sort of like the pass rush of the NBA, where, yeah, you might have this play drawn up, but if our defensive end gets to your quarterback, it doesn't matter if the receiver was going to be open. The quarterback got sacked. And so being able to put pressure on the ball is important. My concern with this team is the athletic abilities and the ability. Like, I think there's some component, there's some honeymoon period right now with the new coach who's brought in a great deal of intensity, and it's great and it's how it should be, right? But I think that you talk about this with your wife as a teacher. There's sort of this 6-week period where everybody's on their P's and Q's, and then you sort of start finding out who's who. And I think that's the case.
I think that's spot on too, Pete, about this idea of, hey, it's early. And the honeymoon period, I think, exists both with the players and with like outside observers as well. And so I'm going to be generous in some of the things that I see that I like.
Well, the reason I pointed out is it's like that's a specific area, the like, oh, we're going to make the extra rotation. We're going to help and recover, that it becomes a challenge of, do you maintain that level of enthusiasm throughout the season? Because ball pressure can backfire on you.
Yes.
If you're pressuring the ball and you're not rotating well because, you don't have that zip that night.
Well, I also think, too, that this is a point we haven't gotten to yet in terms of things that we maybe don't like as much, but the defensive limitations of some of the players, it's going to show up in this style of game too. I know it was later in the game, but I thought Max's technical defensive ability can still be exposed when he's not being as assertive or using all of his physical tools. Like, Damian Lee shouldn't be taking it to Max Christie in any way, even though he's a veteran player. It's just like, stand up to this a little bit more. Knecht gave up several, just like, oh, you're getting beat by Monty Morris, you're getting beat by Josh Okogie, like off of the dribbles, straight line drives. And it's just like, these are some of his weaknesses defensively. And so again, these weren't the best lineups. It's at the end of the game or whatever, but it's just like, okay, when this style comes about, the rest of the team has to be there too, because if they're not, some of these guys' individual challenges are going to show up in neon lights at times too.
No, absolutely. It's so funny, the woes of the garbage time unit or the third stringers. Talk to me a little bit about that, D. We were bad again, right? We didn't actually win the game, and we were bad in those minutes.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with some of the eagerness of the team to play in silos and on their own little islands offensively. Those groups aren't talented enough individually offensively to say we're going to take it upon ourselves to do something. The other day, you were making distinctions between the types of reads and how you have to play when you're in the corner or on the wing offensively versus if you're at the top of the floor offensively. And in the deep bench groups, Max goes from being in the corner to being at the top of the floor.
Shift.
And Max is not as good being at the top of the floor. And even earlier in the game, he made a read from the top of the floor where he drove hard. He sort of ran out of real estate. He tried to make a pass along the baseline to the corner, and it was a turnover. And those are the plays where it's just like, I get that these are reps that Max needs, and so I want to show him grace in that as well. But he took a lot of shots. He didn't make a lot of shots. And there are times where I think those deep bench groups need to find better ways to play together rather than playing by themselves. Yeah. And I thought there was a little bit too much of like, I'm going to go get mine. JHS did this as well.
Yep.
Knecht a little bit less so, but even he fell into that trap a little bit.
No, Knecht looks for his own bucket. I mean, you want that. And I think there's a certain message from the coaching staff of be aggressive that is being pounded into their heads, and it should be. But like you said, it's taken the wrong way in those end of game lineups, because just the whole concept on how to run the offense is a very coordinated attack, so if you're operating as one-on-ones or a series of one-on-ones, it's just not really built to do that in the same way. And so, and then just defensively, a lot of missed rotations, a lot of just like not running back on defense.
So Pete, we got a few minutes left here. Round robin, couple of topics. Cam Reddish made his preseason debut.
Yeah.
We hadn't even heard of Cam practicing before this point, but he was available. He got a few minutes. What did you think of Cam?
He glides around on defense in ways that just really jumps off the screen. I thought he played a very engaged game, had a hilarious turnover on an attempt to, maybe not so hilarious, but yeah, an adventurous pass to Jackson Hayes for a turnover. But I thought defensively, last year's defense was so built around having an on-ball defender that could really use his athletic tools to bother you, which is why he was kind of Vando's backup in a lot of ways conceptually in that respect. And so watching him against those deeper bench type of units, it was like, oh man, I see why he still has fans, you know?
I thought he was very good when doing his job. I thought when it was a coordinated job, he was less successful. So he looked to be like a player who botched a couple of switches, was late a couple of different times. Cam is a gambler. He likes to be in two places at once and really threaten the passing lane and make the offense think twice about the pass that they're going to throw. But that can lead to lingering in spaces that he should not be in when you're playing a more coordinated style. And so I'll be interested to see how switching more, particularly 1 through 4, impacts Cam's natural instincts at times. But he looked healthy. He looked fluid athletically. He made a 3, was a low usage offensive player. Some good stuff from Cam. And lastly, we went a whole podcast without mentioning the fact that LeBron James and Bronny James shared the court together for the first time. This was the major storyline during the game. And after the game, it felt like 80% of the questions were about LeBron and Bronny playing together. And we didn't talk about it at all because welcome to the Laker Film Room podcast. We're going to talk about all of the random stuff that we're seeing, but a cool moment, Pete. And so I just wanted to get your brief take and chime in about, father, son out there getting a little bit of run together in an actual NBA game, preseason, but actual still.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, I don't think we got sort of a moment on the court between them. That's still to come, but literally history making. Just a really beautiful moment to think that in a sport that's so physically taxing like basketball, to be able to be sustainable that long to the point where your son can enter the league. And Bronny has very distinctive defensive tools. Like I can see him, if there was a DH, like a designated defender in basketball, like Bronny's not too far away from NBA minutes. It's the offensive role. And I have thoughts on this I shared during the broadcast I did last night, but it was just the moment. Super cool.
100%. And LeBron seemed very taken by what it actually means. After the game, JJ spoke to your point, Pete, about the sort of competitive longevity and endurance of LeBron to be this good for this long. The thing that was funny to me is that there was a moment where on screen they were showing a clip of Bronny, and it was like a split screen, and it was like a previous clip of LeBron. And they just have some mannerisms that are exactly the same in terms of, I saw Bronny walking in a certain direction and just the way that his head was tilted a certain way and the way his arms were swinging. And then you see the exact same sort of look and posture from LeBron. And it's like that scene from Forrest Gump where Tom Hanks is sitting there with a young Haley Joel Osment, at the very end, and they tilt their head to the side and in the exact same way. It just was a cool little sight of these dudes, they are clearly related in this specific moment. And it was just a cool thing to see. Anyways, they will certainly get more of these moments together. And I am interested to see a real Bronny pick and roll or an inverted pick and roll between LeBron and Bronny and what that might deliver. Anyways, just a cool little spot.
A great moment and a fun weekend of Lakers basketball. We, as we often do, only got to a fraction of what I wish we would have in today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more. There are a few topics I would like to get to, but until then, you've been listening to Laker Film Room Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.
James has got it in low to McHale. McHale wants to turn his double team. Just pass out in front, broken up by Worthy. Tip to Magic. Worthy dies on his belly. Magic scores.
There's Magic, got it. Magic fires again. They will. Lakers win the game. The Lakers win
deflects. Van Exel to win it. It's on the way. Good!
Kobe Bryant, 48 points, 16 rebounds.
Shaq with his 8th block shot that ties an NBA Finals record.
A lot of Laker fans sticking around for this.
You're seeing something that's very rare indeed. A Laker to get MVP chance
In Boston. Of all places.
Are you kidding me?
Kobe, hard to believe.
Are you kidding me? Unreal. Are you kidding me?
Lakers looking to push. Bryant spinning in the lane. Back for Gasol. Pretty pass. And it's back to a three-point game.
Kobe Bryant picked up by Bell. There's the move. 2, 1.
Miss it.
Unbelievable. For the victory. It's over. Shot clock now to 5. Bryant. Yes. And that was a little tap to Alvin Gentry. Add insult to injury, Kobe. I mean, what a shot. I mean, you can't defend that. Are you kidding me?
2.1 seconds remaining. Denver a foul to give. Jokic trying to disrupt Rondo. He puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony Davis has won it for the Lakers! James again. Oh, he hits another one. LeBron James putting together a closing quarter against the Nuggets.
This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters.